Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, the premier source for Second Amendment news, and what I'm about to read to you is a letter from Senator Mike Blumenthal and some others in Connecticut to the CEO of YouTube about gun content. Now I'm going to read this to you. I want you to tell me what you think the repercussions of this will be. For those of us who have been on this platform for a while in the gun game, in the Second Amendment arena, we know before what the little complaints from other companies had caused as far as apocalypse and content being removed. Let me know what you think. I want to thank Braden. Thank you for sending this to me last night. This is interesting. The U.S. Senate is jumping on YouTube for gun content. Here we go. This is a letter, like I said, to Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, and it says, "Dear Miss Wojcicki, we write to express our serious concern that YouTube continues to host videos that instruct viewers on how to make and manufacture ghost guns. This content is a clear and direct violation of YouTube's existing community guidelines on firearms, which provide that, quote, content intended to instruct viewers on how to make firearms, ammunition, and certain accessories, or instruct viewers on how to install those accessories is not allowed on YouTube," end quote. While we acknowledge and appreciate that YouTube has engaged with congressional staff about this problem and, in recent weeks, removed some of these videos, we are alarmed that an extensive amount of this dangerous content still exists on YouTube. It appears that the steps that YouTube has taken thus far are insufficient. Ghost guns are unserialized firearms that anyone can get their hands on, without a background check, and put together themselves with a 3D printer or a do-it-yourself gun-making kit purchased from an unlicensed seller. It costs as little as a few $100s to get the tools and parts to construct a ghost gun, and, with the help from YouTube tutorial videos, can take less than an hour to put together. As a result, ghost guns have become the weapons of choice for gun traffickers and convicted felons, as well as domestic violent extremists and foreign terrorists. I'd like to see the stats to prove that. Federal, state, and local law enforcement officials have sounded the alarm that these untraceable firearms present a distinct and deadly threat and have exacerbated the scourge and surge of gun violence that has ravaged communities all across the United States. Remember the letter from Chuck Grassley yesterday, 0.36% of homicides were from ghost guns, less than 1%. Notwithstanding the clear community guidelines, YouTube has allowed numerous videos that provide explicit instructions on how to construct ghost guns to remain available on its platform, sometimes for years. In December 2021, NBC News, citing a letter from Everytown for Gun Safety that documented 15 examples of volatile videos, reported that dozens of these videos were still watchable on YouTube. These videos, which were posted between 2013 and 2021, drew more than 5.7 million total views. NBC News also found that some of these videos were uploaded to the same channels as the ones YouTube previously took down. During recent conversations with congressional staff about these videos, YouTube committed to addressing the issue and reviewing content on its platform to identify and remove videos that violated its community guidelines. While we appreciate that YouTube was willing to engage and that YouTube took some action to take down a number of videos determined to be in violation, this action was clearly not enough. Following your review, it took one researcher less than 10 minutes to locate dozens of additional videos that violated the same community guidelines on YouTube's platforms. These videos, accounted for in the attached appendix, have been viewed, collectively, more than 2 million times. That view count continues to increase since these videos, as of February 11th of 2022, remain on YouTube. In addition, using YouTube's search feature and terms like build pistol, polymer 80, or build 80 would have returned dozens more examples. The titles of these videos alone, how to build a P80 and how to finish your 80% P320 insert, should have been enough for YouTube to spot and take down these videos on its own. That YouTube has community guidelines in place to prohibit content instructing viewers on how to make firearms is a welcome initiative, but these policies must be enforced, and enforced strongly, to make any difference. It cannot be the case that YouTube is entirely reactive, removing these kinds of videos only when news outlets call public attention to volatile content, when gun violence prevention advocates send letters listing specific YouTube videos that violate its community guidelines, or when congressional staff reach out to raise concerns about such videos. YouTube owns and operates its service and bears responsibility for putting a safe product on the market. YouTube must be proactive and take affirmative steps on its own and expeditiously to enforce the community guidelines related to firearms. Ghost guns pose a dangerous and deadly threat to communities across the country, and make it more difficult for law enforcement to investigate those who exploit legal loopholes to get their hands on them. YouTube claims that, quote, the safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority, end quote. And your community guidelines make it clear that you agree that instructional videos on how to make ghost guns have no business being on YouTube's platform. However, until YouTube devotes the time and resources necessary to actually enforce its community guidelines, the claim that safety is your highest priority rings hollow. YouTube can and must do more to ensure that the content it hosts does not exasperate the threat of ghost guns. In order to better understand YouTube's handling of firearms-related content that violates your community guidelines, I ask that you provide written answers to the following questions no later than March 7th of 2022. 1. Does YouTube acknowledge that its community guidelines related to firearms prohibit content that provides instruction to viewers on how to construct a ghost gun or 3D print a firearm? 2. Following recent discussions with congressional staff, YouTube conducted a review to determine whether certain content hosted on its platform violated its community guidelines related to firearms. Please describe the steps undertaken and the methods employed to perform this review. 3. How does YouTube monitor its platform and identify content that violates its community guidelines related to firearms before the content is reported by community members or other third parties? Does YouTube use machine learning or other software and/or technology to monitor or prevent the posting or uploading of content that may or does in fact violate its community guidelines related to firearms? If so, how many violations or potential violations of YouTube community guidelines related to firearms were identified? And how does this figure compare to violations of YouTube's community guidelines related to other prohibited content, including, but not limited to, child safety, suicide and self-harm, harassment and cyberbullying, and the sale of illegal or regulated goods or services? 4. What steps does YouTube take to prevent users who have repeatedly violated the firearms-related community guidelines from continuing to post or upload such prohibited content? 5. Once YouTube has determined that content violates its community guidelines related to firearms, does YouTube review other content on the same channel or posted by the same user to determine whether additional content violates its community guidelines? 6. Please describe the process, factors, and/or standards YouTube uses to evaluate content reported by community members as potentially violative of its community guidelines related to firearms. What is the average amount of time it takes for YouTube to make a determination on a community member's report of a violation of the community guidelines related to firearms? What is the average amount of time it takes YouTube to remove the prohibited content if it determines that the reported content violates the community guidelines? And how does YouTube prevent prohibited content that is removed from being reposted or re-uploaded to its platform? What terms or individual roles at YouTube are responsible for making determinations concerning violations of the community guidelines related to firearms? And 7, please provide any statistics YouTube maintains relating to A, the number of videos flagged or otherwise identified as potentially violating its community guidelines on firearms, including the number specific to ghost guns. B, the number of such videos determined to actually be in violation of its community guidelines on firearms, including the number specific to ghost guns. And C, the number of videos actually removed from YouTube's platform, including the number specific to ghost guns. Thank you for your time and for your consideration. Sincerely, the Gun Grabbers. Richard Blumenthal, Robert Menendez, Christopher Murphy, Corey Kooky Eyes Booker, and Edward, I don't even live in the state, Markey. Now the last page here are some of the videos that they cited, and unfortunately some of these are my friends, so I will be reaching out to them this morning as well to let them know. What do you guys and gals think of this? Now the U.S. Senate is trying to take gun information, gun content off of YouTube when it's, guess what, 100% legal. Protected by the United States Constitution. And according to the DOJ and ATF's own statistics, ghost guns are less than 0.5% responsible for all of the murders, all the homicides during the years that they're quoting. It's like 14 to 2021, 2014. So it is not as big a problem as they think, as they quote, as they want to scare people. Thus they use the scary word ghost guns. It's not as big as an issue as they're purporting. But what they want to do is to take the information down, and they want to stop the ability for people to build their own firearm, which is a tradition in America. That's a term I picked up from my buddy Matt over at 2A 3D Print. It's a tradition in America. It's been happening since before the Constitution was ratified or even written or even thought of. It's totally legal, guys and gals, and they just can't handle it. Let me know what you think about this. Will this have major ramifications, major ripples in the gun community here on YouTube? And I don't know. It's hard enough to do 2A content on YouTube. It's constantly under scrutiny, and I think this is going to make it about 100 times worse. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for your time. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I hope you have a kick-ass day today. And until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a gun. Keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. And remember, a gun on your hip is more effective than a cop on the phone. We are the new Sons of Liberty. Take care, y'all.